Okay, I'm unmuted. I'd like to welcome everyone. We're waiting for a few more people to get online, so just be a little patient, but we are going to rock and roll today. I'm excited that you're here. Oh my God, this is such an interesting time for humanity. You know, a lot of you are locked away in your quarantine, and it's probably a stressful time for a lot of people, but it's also a great time for us to really look at who we are and why we do what we do. Now we're here to, support you in every way we know how. We have a great team. We work tirelessly for you to bring you the best quality, not only products, but the information and the support. We're here for you. We're grateful for you. We're very grateful for you because, when you look at this time and you look at this questioning of what people should do or not do, you're the guys that are out in the forefront. You're the people that are reaching out from your heart to really help them with something that's more natural. I mean, we're designed to heal. We come into this world, as this spiritual being having this human experience. But I can tell you that, there's a brilliance within your body. There's a brilliance. It knows how to take care of itself. It really does. And we're here to honor that, acknowledge that, support that in every way we know how. I'll give you a little background of myself. I got into enzymes back in 1986. I met Dr. Loomis. It was when we were learning about enzymes from strictly a biochemical perspective. It was all biochemistry. My background was in biochemistry in grad school. And I loved it. It was great, But one thing he said to me, he says, Lou, you could be taking the best nutritional products in the world, but if the nutrients are not broken down and if they don't get to the cell in the format that the cell needs, what the heck good are they? So think about that. You have a body. You have a body that has 11 different organ systems. Now, if you haven't gone online to download the Focus on Healthy Function booklet, that's available to you. There's links for it. I suggest you do that. But, we're really, it's really about honoring that healthy function. It's really about looking at how the body works. You have 10, and actually 11, because we've talked about the lymphatic system as a separate system, even though some of you have learned it as part of the immune system, because it is part of the immune system. But those 11 systems are there to support homeostasis, which is healthy function, which is the body's innate intelligence. Remember, I said you have a brilliance within you. It knows what to do. You have to reduce the stress and give it what it needs. I'm going to jump into the first slide here. Okay, let's look at this first slide. What are the basic nutritional rules of healthy function? Okay. All right, well, the body needs nutrients to support its organ systems. Remember, I said there's 11 of them. And you need digestive enzymes and metabolic enzymes to help the body to absorb those nutrients. We'll talk a little bit about that. Stress interferes with the body's ability to use enzymes. So let's talk about stress just a little bit. There's emotional stress, there's mechanical stress, there's nutritional stress, or mechanical, emotional, nutritional, and a lot of women like to call it men. That's a big stress right there for most of the women. Anyway, those are the stressors. So we come into the world and we're exposed to those stressors. We come in and we're pure. We're totally trusting. We're trusting that we're going to be fed. We're trusting that we're going to be loved. We're also trusting that what we're told is the right thing, So we develop a belief system, and now that belief system, along with our body growing and interacting with our environment, also has to interface with our lifestyle. So now we grow up and we find out if that belief system was accurate or not. We find out if what our parents told us was good for us or not good for us, and or whatever our other mentors around us taught us. And then we start to figure it out. We start to figure out that there's an intelligence within us that speaks to us. And if we listen to it, if we're mindful of it, we can do what we need to do for ourselves. So let's go back to the body here for a minute. So when we're looking at the body and supporting the body, because the body needs to be in balance. The body needs to be in balance because there's the brain and the heart connection. Now, when you do something with love in your heart, you generate 5,000 times more energy than the brain. So we're designed to do what we love. We're designed to do what we love. And the people that we see, the people we interact with, the people that come to us for help, really, truly want to do what they love, but their body is interfering with that process. So they come to you with complaints. They come to you with symptoms. I like to call symptoms reactive responses. So when they come to you and they have a reactive response and they want that magic bullet, that's what they want. Everybody wants the quick fix. No one wants to own their own stuff. No one wants to look at it. Well, I'm not saying no one, but a lot of people, just would rather have somebody else solve their issues. And you have to look at them and say, okay, Mrs. Jones, I know you have this reactive response going on with your body, but I have to tell you, what we're going to do here is we're going to support your healthy function. We're going to look at what your body is doing or not doing, because there's 11 organ systems that are maintaining the environment around each and every cell of your body. And your body and the cells of your body have a desire to live. And if you give it what it needs, it's going to do what it needs to do. Now, there's a nutrient priority sequence. So what that means actually is that macronutrients, which are carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids, must be digested and absorbed before vitamins and minerals can be utilized. Well, lucky for you guys, we build that right into our formulas. So our nutritive formulas have enzymes right in the capsule. Right in the capsule. How cool is that? So you don't have to think about that. Now, there's also a metabolic priority sequence in the body. The metabolic priority sequence basically means that, where the most blood supply is, that's where you're going to have the most metabolism. Now, back to the 11 organ systems. You have a systems priority sequence, which means, for example, let's say you have a reactive response on your skin. Now, you have to think about this. You want to think about healthy function. Your immediate thing is, well, what's the magic bullet? What supplement do you have for that? And, I get a lot of calls like that. And I have to take people, and those of you that are on the call that have spoken with me over the phone, I'll sit down with you and say, okay, let's look at this person right in front of you. So you want to look at each and every person as an individual. We are individuals. We are a spiritual being having our own unique human experience. And depending on our genetics and our the nature and nurture, and the environment that genetics is exposed to, will exhibit what that body is able to do. So you have to say, okay, there's a reactive response on the skin. We need to see, maybe your skin needs support. Maybe it needs a nutritional support. And we'll talk about a couple of formulas in here in a minute about feeding nutrition to the skin. But maybe the system is overloaded. Maybe your liver is not going through phase 1 and phase 2 of liver detox. Okay, we're going to talk about this in upcoming webinars. So don't worry about that now. But, maybe the liver's not doing its job. Maybe the kidney's not cleaning the blood. So the question is, what is the order? That's what you need to think about. Now, a lot of you have taken trainings. A lot of you have learned about, muscle contraction patterns that occur when an internal organ is stressed. And that goes back to embryology when we developed from the 3 germ layers, because an internal organ is going to be connected to a muscle group. It's going to be connected to the skin. So again, back to the skin issue, reactive response in the skin, you have to look at, the connection between the organs that are trying to provide a balance in homeostasis and seeing what is that priority, what is that body asking for first, second, third. Sometimes it's a simple quick fix. I'm not saying that, it could be that, but not always. So, when we think about nutrition, the AMA talks about nutrition, or definition of nutrition is the science of food and the process by which the organism ingests, digests, absorbs, transports, utilizes, and excretes waste or food substances. Okay? And when we look at the definition of food, is a material consisting of protein, carbohydrates, fats, and other substances, minerals, vitamins, and enzymes that are essential for the organism to sustain growth, repair, and furnish energy for all activity. So really, what we're wanting to do with these people, what we need to recognize is, where does that body need energy? Let's go to the next slide. So, in order to generate energy, you need enzymes. You need digestive enzymes, you need metabolic enzymes. Because there is that nutrient priority sequence that I talked about. It's the carbohydrates or macronutrients, carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids must be digested and absorbed before vitamins and minerals can be utilized. That's what's built into our products. Okay? That understanding, that function, that mechanism. But you need to digest your food. Now you need digestive enzymes to break down your food particles. You need to chew your food. You need to start there. You need to look at their diet. This webinar, we're talking about diet, digestion, and bowel elimination. Next time, we're going to talk about what happens when things get across the gut lining. And we'll go there next time in auto-intoxication and immune. But, what do enzymes need? They need a correct pH. They need something to work on. They need the right temperature. They need water. They need moisture because they're hydrolytic enzymes. Okay, so why do you get a fever? The temperature goes up, it increases enzyme activity. pH, breathing, pH starts with breathing. pH is also regulated by the kidney. So, think about the healthy function of the kidney. All of that is something that needs to be addressed. So enzymes are the only thing that work in the body. Okay, whether they be digestive enzymes, metabolic enzymes, but enzymes work throughout your whole system. Your immune system uses enzymes. So when things that get across have a structure to them. They're made of protein, they're made of fat. So what do you think your immune system will have to break those down? It'll have protease for protein, it'll have lipase for fat. So let's move to the next slide now. And now we're going to jump into the formulas that fall into the category of diet first, then we'll talk about digestive formulas, and then we're going to talk about bowel elimination formulas. Now, SVG, carbohydrate, nutritive, herbs, and enzymes. This is a formula that has herbs in there that not only will put in complex carbohydrates. Why do we need carbohydrates? Well, that's the first source of energy that the body uses as an energy source, a macronutrient energy source. The body needs that, and usually we only have enough carbohydrates, to last us half the day. Well, then, we're going to talk about protein here in a minute, but we'll stay on SVG in this particular formula. So it's a great formula to put in the complex carbs. It also has herbs in it that help the flow of saliva. Why is that important? Well, saliva releases amylase, which is what starts breaking down your sugars that you take in. You know, that people that eat too much sugar, you ever notice your throat gets a little sore? Well, those salivary glands will enlarge. You know, those of you that studied Dr. Howe's work, and he studied animals in the wild, and he found that compared to domestic animals had hypertrophied, enlarged organ systems, you know, like the pancreas, because the body is trying to do what it can. Remember, it has an innate intelligence. Remember, it's trying to balance homeostasis. So that salivary gland may enlarge to produce more amylase, and maybe the throat might get a little sore. That formula could help. It could help, you know, get that flow of saliva going, and also help with sugar cravings. So you get people that are trying to get off their sugar, and they seem to they can't go there. You know what I usually tell them, you know, take 2 or 3 of this formula, wait 20 minutes, and if your craving is still there, then act on it. You know, it's funny because the other day, being in quarantine, you start to munch on everything in your house. I'm sure a lot of you have had that experience. And of course, you gain a little weight and whatever. You know, I made a pact with myself. I am done with that. I'm done with the snacks. I'm not going and buying more. So anyway, so I decided, okay, I was having a sugar craving. It's like, oh, SVG, and you should see my counter. I have used nothing but Loomis Enzyme products my whole career since 1986. So anyway, so I grabbed 3 of them, took it, waited 20 minutes. I'm like, I don't really have that craving anymore. Anyway, let's move to the next slide. So that's a great formula for putting in the complex carbohydrates, the essential kind of carbohydrates. IVD stands for, you could say it stands for intervertebral disc. And why is it called that? Well, because the disc needs protein. Structures need protein. This is a phosphorus-based product. The proteins in here are phosphorus-based. You need phosphorus for the bone. So when you think about using this formula, you think about you could support the protein structure for the disc. You could support protein structure when maybe someone has fractured a bone and they need that extra protein to build that bone. They may need calcium. We have a calcium formula that we'll be talking about in this webinar series that you could use in combination with this. But basically it's a great formula, and I haven't mentioned this on the previous formula, but usually you want to follow the direction on the bottle. That's a great starting point. Clinically, if you have objective ways of figuring out that they need more, they need less, then honor your objective findings. Those of you who have been trained in that, trust that. But usually 2 capsules after meals is enough. If you had fractured a bone, then maybe you might want to use more with a calcium formula. But again, this is a protein-based, phosphorus-based supplement. Next one. This is also a protein formula. It's a protein formula from egg whites with amino acids. It's a sulfur-based protein. So more for protein needing to feed the protein mechanisms systemically. So take, for example, you have women that have hot flashes. Basically what they need, believe it or not, is they need extra protein. Protein holds fluid in circulation. So when the protein balance gets off, things flush. So if you have protein that leaks out into interstitial fluids around the cells, you could get a flushing effect. So there's your hot flashes for you. But this is a great protein formula, and you can take it. Again, the recommendation is 3 capsules 3 times a day, especially for women that, as they get older, they have trouble digesting protein. You need to supplement, but men also. So it's a great protein supportive formula. Let's go to RIBS formula, or RBS. We call it RIBS for short. RBS is a formula that is emollient herbs and enzymes. It's high in fatty acids. It does have wheat germ in it. So with people that have a wheat sensitivity, you may choose the next formula that we'll talk about instead. It's also a great formula. It has lecithin in there, so it helps with fat emulsion. So you're putting in the good fat. It also has kelp in here. So when you think about, the thyroid needs kelp, but it also needs fat to carry the iodine, which is in kelp, to the thyroid. So if the thyroid needs healthy support, this is a great formula for a thyroid that maybe is running a little slower than it should. This is a great formula for that as well. Let's go to the next formula. Sore ribs, we call it, is a great formula for feeding nutrition to the skin, but also you need fat for the nervous system, you need it for the hormonal system, and you need it for the skin. Remember I talked about that example of a reactive response on the skin, and I talked about, choosing a systems priority sequence order. This would be the formula you would think about maybe for feeding the skin, especially feeding the skin. But you can also use it if they can't take the RBS formula on the previous slide, then you can choose this formula in replacement of that. Okay, let's drop into digestion now. To quick review with the diet section. Remember, the first thing you always want to do with these people is you want to change their diet. You want to make sure they're eating the right healthy foods. That's primary. And the formulas we just talked about are adjunct formulas. They're additional formulas that they can take if their diet is just not enough and you just need a little extra carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. Now we're looking at helping them digest their food. Now, you get people that eat all kinds of foods, from eating out on at a restaurant with genetically modified foods. A lot of them, unless you're eating at a True Foods restaurant that uses all organic, foods of all kinds that are cooked, processed, irradiated. All the enzymes are destroyed. So unless you want to eat a raw organic diet in the soils that those organic raw foods have come from, and you chew your food well, maybe you don't need a digestive. But I can tell you, the American lifestyle, we all need a digestive. If you don't know what to do with these people and you're just getting started with this work, those of you that are new on this call that have asked me for a long time now to do these webinars because you couldn't afford the travel and you really want to learn this stuff, I commend you for staying after me. It says, Dr. Napama, when are we going to have a webinar? So here we are doing it. Anyway, so vascular formula, VSCLR. This is a great formula. It has a lot more lipase in there, lipase activity. When you look at the label, you see proteases first, but that's by weight. When we look at enzyme activity, we don't put the enzyme activity on the label. That's priority for us. We don't want anybody copying our formulas because we have the best formulas on the market. I can guarantee you that. I've experienced that in all my years of practice in using these formulas. So this is a formula that you would give someone that needs a little extra help with fat digestion. It will digest all of the meal, but it's tipped a little more. So who are those people going to be? Think about, okay, someone maybe that has eaten a lot of sugar for too long and they start to eat fat because they can't handle the sugar anymore. People that maybe have glucose showing up in their blood and it can't get into the cell. It can't get into the cell. So maybe you need a enzyme formula that's going to clean the receptor sites, even if it gets in here systemically, because you can take this formula systemically besides as a digestive. You take it 2 before your first bite. It helps you digest your meal. You can also take it between meals. It'll help your vascular system. So if your receptor sites are clean, that insulin can carry glucose into the cell. So think about this from a healthy function perspective. We don't make any claims We don't diagnose, we don't treat or cure or prevent disease. We're all about supporting healthy function, and that's something that you should remember when they come in to see you. That's how I practice. They came in with a condition that was diagnosed, and I said, we're going to support your body, healthy function, and we're going to look at your diet, help your digestion, and help you make lifestyle changes to support you optimally. So let's look at the next formula. Next formula is called STM. It's a mucilaginous formula because it has mucilaginous herbs and enzymes. This formula is a great formula with people that complain that their stomach is irritated and they just need something to soothe it, but they still need to digest their meal. It's a great formula to take. Take 2 with your first bite of your meal, and it will help soothe the lining and help you digest your food. Now, sometimes when people have, and I'll just share this now, and we'll talk about this other formula I'm going to mention in a minute here. Sometimes people have such a compromised lining that even the protease that's in this formula can be a little irritating. It's rare that it happens. I just want to tell you that now. It's rare. So probably 98% of the time you're not going to see it, but when you do, there's another formula called URT, which we'll talk about in the upcoming webinar. And if you want to call me, I encourage you to call me if you have a case like that. That's why the number is going to be there for you to call. I encourage you, a lot of you do. I'm here for you. So call me, email me. We can help you with these cases. So, but you could take that other formula, have them take it for a couple weeks. And again, I'll explain this when you call me on a particular case. You could take it for a couple weeks and then get back on this formula and take that other formula between. And we'll review that when we get to that URT formula, but just so you know. Okay, biliary formula. The BIL formula is a formula that you would give someone that has problems digesting their protein and their fat. So when protein is not being completely digested in the stomach, the chyme coming down into the small intestine is not as acidic. Now it's the acidic chyme that stimulates the flow of bile. Okay, the more flow to that bile, the less problems you're going to have. You need bile to stimulate peristalsis and stimulate bowel movements. You know, you need bile to emulsify the fats so you can absorb your fats. Remember I said earlier about the nutrient priority sequence, that vitamins and minerals cannot be utilized unless macronutrients are digested. Well, if you don't digest your fat, how are your fat-soluble vitamins going to get into your body? So there's that review of that. That's why you want to think about, a nutrient priority sequence and why it's important. So take 2 at the first bite. People that complain of maybe sometimes they get a little pain underneath their gallbladder area. A lot of them don't have a gallbladder, but I can tell you that bile will become sluggish if that protein is not digested, and that can lead to other issues and very complex issues. But it's a great formula to use for those people. Again, 2 with the first bite. Any questions? Follow directions on the bottle. PAN formula. The PAN formula is a great formula for people that love their carbohydrates. Okay, so it's got more carbohydrate enzymes in it, disaccharides in there. That formula is a great formula to give them, but you also want to remember you want to reduce their source of stress, and their source of stress is too much carbohydrates. So you reduce their amount of carbohydrates in their diet, you put them on this formula which has a lot of digestive enzymes, and you're going to knock it out of the park. It's a great formula for those people. It's an awesome formula. We've had it for a long time, and we've had tremendous success with it. 2 with the first bite. DGST, could say, stands for digest. This is a great general formula. It's safe for everybody. Again, if you have a compromised mucosal lining, where you talked about the stomach formula, the stomach rules. So you want to use that formula first. But this is a great formula. You know, you can give it to anybody at any age group. We recommend, you know, supplements for people over 4. But it's a great general digestive formula. If you don't know what to do, put them on DGST, 2 with the first bite. If you can help them digest their food and prevent toxicity in the colon and maximize nutritional availability, you're doing a great justice right there. You're helping people right there. It's that simple. It's that simple. So we have it in a powder. We are actually going to phase out of the powder, but for people that don't want to swallow the capsule, that we just went over that formula that is a capsulated form, you can just open up the capsules, sprinkle it on the food, you know, put it in applesauce or whatever, if you know, if it's a young child that's over 4. And it's a great, just like I said, it's a great digestive formula. HCl, it's not hydrochloric acid, but it honors the mechanism of hydrochloric acid. It's really, you know, when people get older, they become either achlorhydric or hypochlorhydric, which means that they don't secrete as much hydrochloric acid as they need to be. Okay, hydrochloric acid activates pepsinogen to turn into pepsin. Now, pepsin is a proteolytic enzyme. That's what starts your protein digestion in your stomach. Besides the salivary enzymes coming down from your mouth, there's protease in those in that as well. But in the enzymes in your food, the raw foods, enzymes, you're gonna have a window, 30 to 60 minutes before hydrochloric acid is secreted and the activation of pepsin occurs. Well, now you have pepsin built right in. It's a microbial source of pepsin. It's not an animal-based source. So those of you that are vegan or kosher, you could give this to your patients. It comes in a vegetable capsule. That's a great formula for older people that need that extra pepsin support. Let's go to lac. Okay, all you ice cream lovers out there. This is a great formula. It has a lot of lactase in it. Lactase, you know, to break down dairy. So let's say you enjoy that bowl of ice cream, but when you eat it, maybe you get some slightly loose stools, because that's what lactose can cause if you're really sensitive. But if you take a couple of these lac formulas, a lot of that problem will go away. So you can use it as an adjunct formula, use it for when you just want to have that bowl of ice cream, or dairy or cheese, if you're a cheese lover. I know here in Wisconsin, we love our cheese. Anyway, that's that formula, 2 first bite or at the end of the meal. GMH3. GM, what does that stand for? General Motors? How about genetically modified? How about people that eat a lot of genetically modified foods when they alter the amino acid sequence and the body can't recognize that amino acid sequence in the proteins? Well, we have a proprietary blend called DPP4, and that will break down those bonds and it'll start digesting that food, because what'll happen with a lot of people that eat foods like that, they may get a reactive response on the skin. So if you take this, I take this formula when I travel, because when you travel, you're eating at restaurants, there's no guarantee you're going to get organic foods, you know, so I use this as my digestive formula. It also has a lot of amylase in there. So if you have a reactive response on the skin, this formula can also be taken between meals. So let's say, you know, you just ate a little bit more than you should have, or you forgot to take this particular formula and you do have a reactive response later. You could even take it between meals for that. Ultra BDG, bloating, distension, gas. You know, maybe I like to call this our version of Beano. It's a great formula where, you know, if you're going to have that bowl of beans, you need to break down that fiber and you need to get that social distancing working. This is a great formula that'll help you. It's usually taken at the end of the meal. as an adjunct formula for the other digestive formulas that you could pick from. It's a great formula. It also comes in a combination formula that we will talk about that combines this formula with our bowel formula that we're going to talk about coming up after we talk about GLTN, gluten. You gluten lovers, you pasta lovers out there. You know, I was raised in an Italian family. I love my pasta. But, you know, for years, you know, of eating pasta, I would get a little contraction in my back after I would eat it. Remember, you know, your internal organs are connected to muscle groups. Well, you know, all of a sudden you wonder, why am I getting contraction there? Well, it's a bowl of pasta. So, you know, we test all our formulas out and we pick our best, our best practitioners out there, and we run it by them too. I mean, we really, these formulas are not just figured out in the library. They're figured out, you know, with right down and right here and now what's going on with this body, and they're balanced. So there's a lot of things in there that we put in our formulas that balance the formulas, that feed the body in such a way that not only it feeds the organ system, but it feeds it in a way that the neurology connected to a muscle group that may react, you'll see that change in that relaxation in that muscle group also will occur, because that's how we're connected. Neurologically, we're connected that way. So gluten, I remember when it first came out, says, here, test this out. And we were doing a seminar in, I think, Richmond, Virginia, and I found this great referral for an Italian restaurant. I said, I'm going for it. And I ate a big bowl of pasta, and I was like, wow, this is great. I had tiramisu, that was great. Told my friends my colleagues about the restaurant. They all wanted to go back the next day. And I was like, oh my God, it's going to happen again. And sure enough, it was awesome. It's a very powerful formula. You know, and I would recommend try one capsule. You know, of course, if you're having a big bowl of pasta, then maybe you need two, but start with one. Okay, let's look at bowel elimination formulas. This is a formula called SMI. You know, when you think about the small intestine and we think about the healthy biome, we think about, you know, the healthy biome that supports the body, because we need a good flora down there. But what takes over that area? What overgrows? It's usually yeast. And yeast is digested by cellulase because it's made of cellulose. So that's a great formula to take when someone has eaten a lot of sugar and it fed that part of the biome and it's overgrowing and they have issues. Usually you start out, I recommend, the bottle says 1 tablespoon. We are actually going to move to just capsules. It's just a lot easier. And in fact, I'm just going to jump there. Let's go to the capsules, because we have right now, for those of you that have still bottles on yourself, classic or vanilla, you know, if you're using the powder, I'd recommend on the safe side to do a 1/4 teaspoon. 3 days later, up it by a half, a half, then go 3/4. 3 days later, and a full teaspoon. It's a great safe way. If you go too fast, sometimes it can overload the kidneys, because the kidneys are trying to clean the blood, and you may get a symptom of nausea, or your patients or clients might. So I would start slow. With the capsules, the recommended dose is 4 capsules twice a day between meals. If you want to be cautious, like I said, because they may have a kidney that needs healthy support, then I would use 1 capsule. And same program, 1 capsule between meals twice a day, then, you know, wait 3 days and then up it accordingly. So that's a great formula for supporting the biome and for getting your yeast under control. Now let's look at LGI. So let's say you have occasional constipation, or your clients have occasional constipation. That flow of bile is not happening the way it should, and the bowels are not moving the way they should. The herbs in here have been noted to help stimulate peristalsis. They'll also help with the fatty acids in the flow of bile. It's a great formula for those people that have trouble digesting their fat and also they have occasional constipation. So you would use it in conjunction with a digestive formula. In this particular case, you'd probably lean more towards the BIL formula that has a lot of lipase in it, protease, and also the VSCLR formula that we talked about. I would use that as a digestive with this formula. IRB. Okay, IRB. Well, let's say you have occasional loose stools and you need an astringent type of, support to help that. Well, this could be used again after meals to support that. It'll help the lining of the digestive tract that is irritated. It's a great formula for that. So let's move on to Challenge. Challenge is a formula that will clean the colon. It's also a formula that doesn't have enzymes in it. So some of you that have gotten training where you want to challenge the body and give them a complete food to see how they react to proteins, carbs, and fats, you can give them a tablespoon of this. It's a great formula for cleaning the colon. I mentioned that it is also in a combo formula. We'll talk in an upcoming webinar with the Ultra BDG, the digestive formula that we talked about. It's combined in a capsule form, this and that. If you wanted to do a general cleanse, and again, we'll review this when we get to the combo formulas, you can have them take the FT formula is what it's called after meals, or you could use the challenge powder. Now, we are done talking about product. I just want to do a quick review. Remember that you want to support their diet, you want to help them digest their food, and you want to support their bowel elimination. So you're really supporting, again, you're supporting the healthy function of their body. You're giving them what they need to do what your body is intended to do, because everybody wants to do what they love. And remember that. And I know you on the call, are on this call because you want to do what you love and helping people naturally. And that's what we're all about. We're here to help you and to provide for you the best formulas we can possibly provide. We constantly are on track with that, and we're here for you. I just want to remind you that at the end here, very shortly, we have about 15 minutes, keeping this to an hour. We're going to open this up for questions. If those of you have put your questions in the question and answer section, I will pick some questions to answer. Also remind you that the next webinar coming up, it'll be next Friday at 11 o'clock. Central Standard Time, and we're going to talk about auto-intoxication and immune systems. So watch for that invitation. You'll get a link again. You won't have to RSVP me. It'll be direct. And also, I encourage you again to call me and to, reach out. I'm here for you. So without further ado, I'm going to end this talk on the webinar and be ready to answer your questions. So stay tuned for the next phase. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. I think you can see me on the screen. I am here. I'm looking at your questions. Let's say first question I see at the top is SVG contains wheat. I assume wheat germ. At least suitable for those with gluten sensitivity. Yes, I mentioned that when I talked about it, that you might want to pick, something different, stabilized rice bran. You can use that instead. You can find that. We don't have stabilized rice bran as a product, but that would be a good choice if you need to put in some good complex carbohydrates. Next question, would vascular be better than BIL for fat digestion? Well, there's a little more lipase in there, but when you get people that have a combination of protein, they need help with protein and fat, then I would probably pick the BIL formula over the vascular formula. But vascular is a great formula for fat digestion. Let's see. If people love their carbs and we give them pan, then they're able to better digest them and then gain weight. Also very interesting why this formula comes up in most urinalysis. Well, it comes up in most urinalysis because a lot of people eat carbohydrates. Remember, we need carbohydrates for energy. That's the first source. So, again, you want to look at reducing their dietary intake. They want to lose weight. You got to cut those carbs down. So that's important to do. Let's see. How would you choose between ribs versus sore ribs? Reflex points. What you use, digest versus stomach. If someone has issues with stomach, you still use URT. Okay, those of you that have learned the system, that are able to palpate the muscle groups that are neurologically connected, and there's an indication that you should go with the one or the other. Again, I'd say, use your objective findings to choose the right formula. But I would, if there's a compromised lining, start with stomach, the STM, and then go with either vascular. If the stomach formula is too strong, then you could use that URT formula that you have on the question here. URT is a formula that helps the lining of the urinary tract, but it also helps the lining of the digestive tract and the stomach. So that's why I mentioned before, have them take it for a week or two. It's not going to, but it's going to help the lining, and then you can go back and use the STM formula, and then continue that URT between meals, and that usually works quite well. Let's see, anonymous question here. HCl is the old 32 formula. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Those of you that have used our formulas when they were numbered, it absolutely is. Do we have any more questions? Did I miss any? I don't see any other questions here. If you have any more, let me see if I can. Oh, I got to scroll up. Here we go. Okay. All right. Does HCl increase stomach acid? No, it doesn't increase stomach acid, but when you digest protein and balance the body has an innate intelligence to increase acid if it needs it, but it's not going to increase, the formula is not going to increase the acid. Can you use lac for nursing moms? There's no issue with that for nursing moms. Why Bill sometimes is more effective in reducing abdominal gas than Ultra BDG? Well, it starts with that primary digestion because you're taking the BIL at the beginning of the meal. So that's why. Okay, next question. If someone has needed mucosal lining support in the past, but is now needing more protein digestion support, which formula could I consider? Usually what you want to do is you don't want to overload the body if they have a compromised lining with too much protease. So the next formula you want to go to is the VSCLR, which doesn't have as much protease as the BIL formula, but it's a good follow-up formula if you wanted to move from that supporting the mucus lining with the STM and go to the next formula. Okay, yeah. Oh, got it. I see here. Let me look at this next one here. Okay, LGI contains senna, also concerns for long-term use. Remember I said occasional constipation. You don't want to use it long-term use. Okay, next one. LGI sometimes causes more constipation to my clients who don't drink enough water. Also, some research shows that cascara initiate to the bowels sometimes happens with the challenge for the general cleanse of FT formula. Well, they need water, otherwise you can lean towards constipation if you're too dry, that's for sure. No, same happens with FT. Well, you know, everybody that you examine is going to be different. And if the formula doesn't work, then don't use that formula, would be my recommendation. Are you totally discontinued the SMI powder? Yes, we are. It is my best-selling product, especially since I work with a lot of kids. I kind of imagine them opening up the capsules as such a bummer. Well, you know, I understand that, but you open up the capsules for them. So, and you have better control over your dosage. Let's see here. Okay, tried a client on pan and vascular, both made her gassy. Okay, belching and even loose stools. I've never had that happen. I may call you. Okay, you can call me. But I can tell you that pan has diastase in it. You know, I did a little research on this. Diastase will digest starch and break it down to maltose. Now, what this tells me is that your patient or client has yeast overgrowth because yeast cannot feed on starch. But if you break it down to maltose, they'll go crazy. So keep that in mind. So you need to support them maybe with the SMI formula. Suggestion for a formula for chronic constipation. You know, for a formula for chronic constipation, you know, start with, you know, we don't make any claims, first of all, treating chronic constipation, but you want to start with digestion. You want to start with, you know, a bill or vascular would be a good one. And then just go from there, change their diet. Look at the cause, look at the source of stress of why they have it. Okay. Will challenge powder continue to be available? I believe it is going to be. Yes. Yep. Are these safe with pharmaceuticals? Good question. You know, I always recommend do not take enzymes with pharmaceuticals just to be on the safe side. Wait, you know, because if remember, pharmaceuticals are always going to have side effects. So if you maximize the efficiency of that body, you know, and at the time where things can get absorbed because you're helping digestion and you're helping things getting absorbed a little better, you know, medications, you know, you may get a side effect from the medication that you didn't have before. So be on the safe side. Give it a different time. Okay, very dry skin, what's the best for this? Again, what feeds the skin is fatty acids, So think about the SOAR rib formula, the PSR rib formula. That's a great formula for feeding nutrition to the skin, but also, again, you want to look at, you know, are you getting a good fatty acids from your diet? Are you digesting it? You want to pick a good digestive formula. Okay, I've used vascular with both my dog for years and love it. Any other products for aging, pain, joints, safe for dogs? You know, yeah, I would use osteo for them. It's a great formula. It's a great formula to support the joints. You know, the joints need sulfur, and there's a great combination in that formula to provide the nutritions for the joints. So I'd use that. Okay, can IBD be used to help dissolve calcium-based stones in the kidney? No, that's not going to do it. But if you use a formula that has lipotripic herbs in it, the URT formula, that will help. So that is a great formula, and we'll talk about that, I believe, next time in the next webinar. But again, you could call me and we can discuss it over the phone. Okay, if someone has needed mucosal lining support in the past, but is now needing more protein digestion support, which formula would you use? Again, I would use the VSCLR formula. It has protease in it, a little more than STM formula, and it's a great formula to use there. Okay, let me I just popped up here. Okay. Which formula don't have diastase, and why is that important? Well, there's two formulas, I believe. I believe it's BIL and vascular. Don't quote me on that, but off the top of my head. But again, you know, you still could have a problem with yeast. And when there's gas and bloating, you might want to still look at it. Why bill sometimes more effective? Oh, let's see, I think we looked at that. Okay, please. Thank you so much for doing this webinar. Great information. I appreciate it. Thanks again. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Let's see, I think we got time for a couple more questions. I want to thank you, Dr. Vama, so much for okay. Thank you. Take after meal. It is defined as last bite. Should you wait 30 minutes to start? Yeah, that's a good rule of thumb. Yeah, that's a good rule of thumb. Okay. Should you wait 30 minutes? I already deleted the question. I'm sorry. Should you take? Okay. Let's see here. Let's see here. So products can be used if a client is taking pharmaceuticals if they're taking it at different times. Usually yes. Usually yes, but you want to check. You want to check your herbs and see if there's any contraindication to be on the safe side. Let's see. When you say give enzymes at different times, do you mean different times of the day, or wait until they decide to stop taking the prescription? Not sure I understand that question very well. Why don't you call me on that one? I'm going to pass on that one. Thank you, Dr. DePalma. Let's see. Thank you so much. Let's go down. Thank you again. Thank you. I appreciate you guys. I also give my old dog Cirque for the heart issues. She ate it like candy. Isn't that great? Yep. Okay. Thanks for doing the webinar. Thank you, Peg. Why bill sometimes more effective in reducing abdominal gas than Ultra BDG? Well, look at it this way. You're giving it at the beginning of the meal. Usually you're taking Ultra BDG at the end of the meal. So, you know, you're starting right at the start. You know, that's when it's going to be most effective. Does HDL, we already looked at that one. Let's see. Can you use lac for nursing mom? We already looked at that one. About to delete it. Yep, we looked at that. I think we're good. I think we've run out of time, and I want to thank you for being here. We appreciate you. And thank you again. I hope to see you next week on the next webinar, and we'll continue our journey into healthy function. Thank you very much.